Marcia will be hosting an hour of
know,
true
we're
stories and
heading. We're doing
information,
early?
tips and updates
Okay,
of the
here we
latest
go.
research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you
going?
need to know as a family
Okay, here
caregiver,
we go.
especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Welcome, everyone, to Caregiver Solution Info Show. I'm so glad that you're here today. We have another wonderful program for you. This show was actually created for caregivers who are taking care of someone, usually an adult, that cannot take care of themselves. And we specifically talk about caregivers, what's good for caregivers, what caregivers need, and we also focus on the patient, if you will, especially the ones with some form of dementia, whether it be from Alzheimer's disease, maybe Parkinson's, maybe vascular dementia. But it's all really interconnected. And if you're a caregiver, it doesn't matter whether you're a caregiver lending, physical support, emotional support. Being with somebody is very difficult to take care of them when you're not trained. And most people do not go through life expecting to be a caregiver. It's something that is usually just thrown onto them, a lot of times unexpectedly. And so it's a very, very difficult thing. And if you're a caregiver, I don't have to tell you that. But a lot of people don't understand, and a lot of people need to sometimes put themselves in the shoes of a caregiver in order to understand what a caregiver is really going through. Because with, for instance, Alzheimer's disease, which can last anywhere from 2 to 20 years, the average being probably 10 to 12, that's a long time to be responsible for 24/7 care for somebody else, doing everything for them, things that they cannot do for themselves. And if someone is unable to dress themselves, feed themselves, think for themselves even, this is really, really tiring, stressful, overwhelming for the primary caregiver. And so we want to focus today especially on that caregiver. It's very important for caregivers, as we say, take care of yourself. And you've heard that little story about you have to take care of yourself so you can take care of the other person, like when you're on an airplane and the oxygen mask comes down, put it on yourself first so you're able then to help the other person. Well, that's easier said than done when someone says, hey, relax, take care of yourself, right? What does that exactly mean? So today's program, we're going to explore what that exactly means, and not only what it means, but how to do it, how to accomplish it, and the steps by step that you might want to take in order to relax and not be so anxious and stressed out. And so I'm very excited today for the special guest we have coming onto the show to teach us and lend his expertise in this area. He is someone who has been in this field for over 50 years, doing his work, helping people, helping everyone, especially seniors. He's certified in working with seniors. He is actually a certified hypnotist, and his name is Harvey B. Francis, and he's with me here in the studio right now. Welcome, Harvey.
Thank you.
So, Harvey, you have been doing this a very long time. You're here right in Boca Raton in my backyard. You're at the Hypnosis Center of Boca Raton. And I don't think we've ever had someone like you, per se, on the show. So, if I see you doing some weird stuff to me and your eyes are going and whatever, I hope you're not going to hypnotize me. No, you wouldn't do that. Okay, fair enough. So let's start with the first thing, obviously, is people have heard the word hypnosis. You're a hypnotist. They might go to the fair and see a hypnotist on stage, and they're making people do weird things, right? And you were laughing at them, and people are just amazed by how someone can make someone else do things that maybe they wouldn't ordinarily do. So that being said, I know that's not the realm you're in, but I want to clarify the difference between that kind of show, if you will, and what you do as a professional. So what exactly is hypnosis?
Hypnosis is just a process that allows the conscious and the same subconscious mind believe the same message. And basically, it's just a system of escaping. And, it's really not sleep. No. We use that's a term that came from the Greek. It means sleepwalker. And because you appear to be asleep, you're relaxed emotionally and physically, and you appear to be asleep, but your mind's very active, very alert. And so you absorb information quickly that way. Now, in the fair, I want to go over there. That is entertainment completely, and it's a whole different realm that I don't do. Start with, I don't agree with it. I think it's a misuse of this modality, but it is entertaining, and the people that gets on the stage is really what they call hyper suggestible. They want to get on the stage. They want to have their few minutes in fame, and but they actually are so highly suggestible that they go very deeply, very quickly, and they want to be there. In my modality, I get them just as deep and sometimes deeper, but sometimes they react in a very different manner because they're there for what you call therapeutic purposes. And so they get there, and what you want to do is change the subconscious programming, which is what's making them respond the way they are. Like even stress. I mean, stress is a learned trait because you can relax just as easy as you can be stressed. And that's easy to say once you've learned to be stressful.
So it sounds like you're saying that you help people change their mind about things?
That's true. Actually,
they're
programming. They're programming.
Okay, all right.
and that is true.
Yeah, and in the case of the guy that's at the fair doing it, he's entertaining people. He's getting the participants to do things that they wouldn't do because he's suggesting them to do this. And in your case, as a professional helping people with real issues, you're actually helping them and giving them, like you said, is a therapeutic type of modality, and it's not just for fun and entertainment. So we're talking real serious business here. And you have this brochure that you handed me earlier, and it's amazing to me all of the different topics that hypnosis can help. So, people hear sometimes, oh, I smoke, right? And so I can't stop. I'm going to go get hypnotized not to smoke. But let me just go through some of these, which it's amazing. IBS, pain management, stress reduction, the smoking cessation, weight control, depression, fears and phobias, changing habits, changing, being obsessed by something, hopelessness, addictions, insomnia, overreacting, that's a good one, pre and post surgery, migraines, tinnitus, life coaching, relaxation, and more. That's a lot of stuff, right? And a lot of people suffer with many of these things, and some people, as you probably have found out, have more than one of these things.
That's correct.
And they have dual problems, right?
That is absolutely correct.
And so, are there, after all of this list here, are there some issues from all of this and more that people come to you for that are easier to fix than others? In other words, are some services that you provide with some of their problems, are they quicker to be fixed or adjusted, or are they all about the same, or does it depend on the person?
Depends on the depth of the problem and the length of the problem, because it's been, how long has it been being reinforced in their life, and it also depends on their suggestibility. You can't have an issue unless you're suggestible to it. For instance, if there was 10 people getting ready to step off the curb, and while they were waiting and for the cross the street, and the light turned white, and all 10 people stepped off at the same time, there was a bus coming, and they all 10 had to jump back on. It probably wouldn't affect at least 80% of them, 8 of them. Wouldn't bother them at all. One of them may develop a fear, and one of them will come to your office 2 or 3 years later and say, I don't know, I have this problem. I'm scared of the crosswalk hand. Well, that's not a rational fear. So you can just about bet that's a phobia. And so there's 2 ways you can treat those. Then there's really a safe way to treat those. And I always pick the safest. It takes more sessions, but I won't take any risks. I mean, there's an awesome responsibility on my side of the desk. Awesome. And if you don't honor that, then you're not doing your profession.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that is a great segue to my next question, which is, what are some of the myths or misconceptions that people have about hypnosis?
Well, some people think that they're going to do something that under hypnosis that they wouldn't do normally, and that simply isn't true at all. No one will do anything in hypnosis that they won't do in the waking state.
Really?
Not in my type of hypnosis. You can't make anybody do anything. And the reason why that is you're never unconscious or in a sleep state. You're even more aware, and the emotions are heightened. And in fact, even your hearing sounds is elevated because your emotions or senses are elevated. I always give people in a chair, suggestions not to pay any attention to any outside sounds, because sometimes it just becomes hyper percussious. If you don't know what that means, the sound seems so loud. So I just automatically do that because I don't want anything to disrupt the flow of the treatment. And so that's one myth. The next myth is that you're not able to come out of hypnosis sometimes.
Oh, that would
and
be
that's
scary.
not true. That is not true. There's never been a recorded case of that.
Okay.
I was working in California, and I had a client that, and you become so relaxed and so comfortable that you don't want to come out of the state because it's that comfortable. There is hypnosis junkies. So I had a gal in California, and she just didn't want to come out. So I went out and I got a coffee and spent a little time and came out. And I knew she just didn't want to come out of the state.
So she has to tell herself to come out. You can't make her do it?
Well, I did.
Okay, because eventually she's got to get up.
She's got to get out of the chair. Well, I might have another client coming in also.
Right.
So what I did with her, there's a little humor in this too. I told her that her bladder was starting to get full, and it was so uncomfortable she couldn't stand it. So she started squirming in her chair and got up.
That's how you got her out?
That's how I got her out.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, there's fun in this, too.
You got to do what you got to do, right?
And the next one is that hypnosis is dangerous. There's never been a recorded incident where someone did something because of hypnosis.
Like go out and hurt somebody?
No, you can't do that. That's against their morals and their values. You won't do anything under hypnosis that you wouldn't do out of hypnosis. Remember, it's just a heightened state. It's focused concentration. A very heightened state. And so Yet, your mind wanders when you're in hypnosis. You might think about what you did yesterday, what you got to do tomorrow, and then you come back, and then you think about the ball game you went last night, and then you come back. But the subconscious mind is hearing every syllable. And people comes out and they say, well, I'm not sure I was hypnotized. And that's another fallacy. People think that some people can't be hypnotized. I've been doing this a real long time.
So is everyone able to be hypnotized?
To varying degrees. Now, with that being said, there's two basic personality profiles, which we don't really have time to go there. But once you realize that the right side of the mind is very susceptible to hypnosis. The other side is the analytical side, and if you give them a direct suggestion like you won't want a cigarette tomorrow, he'll say that's not true. Well, who's he to tell me what to do? So you make those guys hypnotize themselves.
Going back to the fair scenario, they try to see who's going to be more susceptible to go under. And so they give you, some kind of finger things, and they, look at you, and then they, try to do that. And some people don't fit, that test where they can do it. And I don't know if it's because they might want to, but they're not allowing, their mind is not allowing themselves to give that control to somebody. Is that kind of what's happening?
Yes. But remember, the right-minded people, it doesn't have a fear of it. And that's why hypnosis, most cases, there's no such thing as a hypno-miracle in my business, where they come in for one session and boom, you're fixed. Not very realistic. And if you are fixed, it's either temporary or not as deep as it should be.
Well, we're going to explore that a little bit more. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back more with Harvey Francis. And this is so interesting and so fascinating. I can't wait to get more into it. Certified hypnotist. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
I'm back with my special guest, Harvey B. Francis. Harvey is a certified hypnotist. He's with the Hypnosis Center of Boca Raton here in South Florida. He's been in this business for 50-some years, and it's fascinating what we're talking about today. A lot of people have a lot of misconceptions, and they don't know really what it's all about. So we're exploring that. But I want to get in a little deeper now with you, Harvey, about the component where people try to help themselves, like, the smoking thing, or they have physical issues, or they just have a problem that they feel that they can't address on their own, right? Maybe they've gone to the doctor and doctor's given them some pills. That doesn't work. They say they're trying. Maybe they want to lose weight. Maybe they're just chronically depressed, whatever the problem is, right? And doctors have given them pills and they just feel like they're suffering, right? And sometimes they feel like there's nothing else they can do. How does somebody like that even think about going to a hypnotist to help their problem? Does it even kind of enter, or would this be a situation where maybe a doctor would recommend it?
I do have doctors and therapists and counselors recommend people to me. But most people, when they come to me, they've tried everything else, and that I'm their last resort. I had a lady come in my office here, I don't know, a few years ago, and she sat down in my chair, and she said, "I just want you to know that I don't believe in hypnosis." And I said, "Well, what are you doing here?" And she said, "I don't have any place else to go." And I said, "Don't you ever forget that." And I fixed her in 12 sessions. And that gives you a warm fuzzy, you know, when you can do that.
Yeah. You were the last resort and you were able to help her.
That's the first requirement for this to work, is a desire. If you don't have one, you can create one in this business too.
You can.
Oh yeah.
All right. I guess if you suffer enough, it's going to create a desire to get better.
Sure.
So that being said, let's talk about caregivers, right? This show is for and about caregivers. Caregivers are always under stress, a lot of overwhelming requirements they have to do physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. They suffer with being martyrs. They suffer being not good enough in their eyes. They feel guilty. They can be a mess, and rightfully so, because their job is one of the hardest things on earth to do, is to be a caregiver for someone who can't care for themselves. So if a caregiver is so stressed out, for instance, or so overwhelmed, and the doctor's given them some medication, right, and it may or may not help, the next step, if they're suffering and they want to get better and they don't want to feel that way, to come to your office, for instance, and see what you can do, right? So how does, take me through like a typical, a patient like that, what you would do for them, and kind of just a typical session and things that they might experience if they were to come into, sit down with someone who's a hypnotist, just to kind of alleviate the fear, I guess.
The first thing I do is first of all, I start with a very in-depth interview to find out what the triggers are, how deep they really are. And I'd probably start with stress. That's the most common thing.
Is that the most common thing you see?
Most common for people in that realm.
Okay.
And there's basically two kinds of stress. There's a constant stress, and then there's a free-floating that comes and goes. Most of those people is constant. Yet the situation is, I mean, the treatment is basically the same. You desensitize the response to it. In other words, they still have it, but they don't react to it the same way. So you modify the reaction. And I tell everybody, I'm not going to change your personality. I don't want to change anyone. I want them to be able to cope with their own reality. And therein really pretty well sums a lot of this treatment up, is coping mechanisms. And so if you can desensitize the way they respond, it's the same with fears and phobias. You desensitize it, and so it's not as important. So instead of saying, oh, they say, oh, and see the difference. And one's comfort and calm, and the other one is reactive.
Yeah.
Reactive.
Yeah.
So you have to get them to where they act and not react. And say, yes, that bugs me, but it's part of the realm that I'm living in. And that's called a coping mechanism. And so that's the way I would begin that treatment. And most of the time I tell almost everyone that most people that comes to you has two reasons to come to you. Mm-hmm. Normally it's the one they present, and then there's a real reason. but they need to be comfortable with you before they will share that with you.
Do they share that reason knowing they're sharing it, or do you find that out when they're quote unquote under?
No. They share it with me once they become comfortable.
Okay.
No one wants to get to the bare bones. Everybody's got a little bit of a protection mechanism. And if you try to push that too quickly, then you activate the fight-flight mechanism. And now you've got an uphill battle. And you don't want to get them that way, because if someone comes in, I normally don't get too deep into treatment with the first session. I want the subconscious mind to become comfortable with me so it's not rejecting the information, because it's very protective. Remember, the subconscious mind is 88% of our total mind power. The other 12% is just the conscious mind. So if you try to overcome a habit with just your conscious mind / willpower, you've got a real problem, because it's equivalent to a 90-pound guy trying to beat up a 740-pound guy, and it's just not going to happen. It might happen for a while.
I was just going to say, I know people that have extremely strong willpower, right?
Yeah.
They do. And to overcome whatever problem that they're having. So you're saying that, yes, it's possible, but it might not be sustainable?
Most time not.
Not.
Yeah. And the reason why is kind of a corny little explanation we use. The subconscious mind is programmed just like a computer. Subconscious mind is kind of like a hard drive on a computer. And there's a little guy on your shoulder here that is going to protect that programming. Psychologists call it a life script. And it'll do anything. If you get too close and tamper with that very much before it trusts you, it will not let you change any of that programming. And worse yet, if you have a suggestion that you're trying to put in there that's against the subconscious programming, there's a little judgmental or filter between the conscious and the subconscious. There's no such thing, but it's a good way it works. Defense, if you will. And so if it doesn't feel comfortable with that suggestion, it'll either deflect it and totally ignore it, or it'll kind of go through kind of a prism and change the suggestion where it's compatible to the subconscious programming. Then you complicate it. So you don't want to get too far too quick. A couple of sessions in the subconscious mind says, okay, they're not going to do me any damage, and they kind of let their guard down and say, okay. And you can watch that in a chair. And of course, I've been doing it long enough, I expect it. So I can watch what we call ab reactions, and ab reactions is a little jerk or a twitch or something, Yeah. And you'll see that. That's the subconscious mind rejecting that suggestion. So what you do is you rephrase it and state it another way. If you said it direct and it kicked it out, then you can go indirect and see how it goes. And there's a little more to it. Now, all behaviors are not the same. I mean, there's direct and indirect. That's the best way to explain it. And if you're 70% indirect, you'll be 30% direct. But if you're 70% direct, you'll be 30% indirect. So I test these people when they come in. I literally test them. I test them physically, and I test them on paper. And I literally have it, and I can score them.
Really?
Yeah. And if it doesn't add up to 100, they lied to me. So anyway, so then I use that. That tells me which way I need to give the suggestions so they will do it. So if I have to mix them both up to the percentages that they tested.
Okay, so all that being said, which
Sorry.
No, it's so interesting, but of course you're the expert. You're the one that has the certification and all the experience. But for a lay person, it's very intriguing, and that's why we want to talk about this, because people would say, gee, how can you don't live my life, Harvey, you don't live my life, you don't know what it's like taking care of my husband and all of his behaviors because of his dementia, and I'm always on edge and I'm always having to be there, and I can't do anything from you don't know that, Harvey, you don't know the stress I go through, so how do you think that you're going to help me not be stressed, because I still have to do all of these things, and maybe I'll be not stressed for an hour when I come visit you because I'm going to sit in a nice chair and relax, but it's not going to take away my stress.
The first thing I do is anxiety is created by unknowns, and basically triggering a fight and flight mechanism. And so if someone comes to me with an issue that I can see is a fight and flight issue, I ask them the first question, what are you afraid of? And then you need to educate these people. And once you get that test and you explain to them how they're receiving information, at that time you can tell them how they're going to maintain information. Now they know what's going on in their mind. No one teaches anybody that. And there was a famous hypnotist, Milton Erickson, and he was the father of the indirect suggestion. And I think that's good, but he wanted to indirect everybody. So therefore you missed 50% of the population. And as far as people not being able to be hypnotized, everybody is hypnotizable. Some people just don't know they are.
And some a lot and some a little, but to different degrees.
And in fact, we all go in and out of hypnosis several times a day.
Is that when I'm driving down the road and I'm driving and all of a sudden my mind blanks and I don't know what has happened while I'm driving? Is that sort of like
Ironically, I teach that to every client, what you're talking about when they come in, because it helps understand.
So that's what that is. Where I've experienced.
That's road hypnosis. That's what we call environmental hypnosis. And what happens with that, hypnotist creates hypnosis the same way as the environment does. We overload you with information. And we've all gone down the interstate, missed our exit. We've driven by that thing gajillions of times, and we missed our exit. But think about it. You were able to maintain the speed limit, avoid accidents, and just be a safe driver.
Yeah.
But you missed your exit, and you come out from under the ether, so to speak, and you say, wow.
Yeah.
How did I do that? And the answer is simple. Your focus concentration was so high, you were in hypnosis, and the mind had actually escaped or gone into abeyance, as we call it, or autopilot's a better way to understand it. And now it's just working on what it knows. That opens up that, the hypnotist does that the same that opens up that defense mechanism or that filter. I can go down there and I can change all that programming down in the bottom, and when I'm through, I slap it back together so you're not getting any unwanted information.
I always thought I couldn't be hypnotized because at the fair, you do all that, and I'm like, no, my will is too strong. I'm not going to let them do it. It doesn't work. But from what you just said, what I just described to you of going down the road and not knowing anything and being able to function, now I know I can be.
Well, have you ever gone to the movie and cried?
Of course.
And you were in hypnosis.
I was?
True. It's a form of hypnosis. I'll tell you a story. I went through a divorce, and at that time, if you can remember, I doubt you can remember this far back. Anyway, at any rate, they had an Era commercial on for Era clothes washing soap.
Oh, okay.
And they had that thing all over the telephone. Every time you turned it on, it'd be that commercial over and over and over.
ERA.
Yeah, Era.
Soap, yeah. I remember that.
And they just bombarded you. And so when I got my apartment, when I left, when we separated, well, you certainly couldn't use the same dish soap. I mean, the clothes washing soap that your ex used, that wouldn't be good. So what did I buy?
Era.
Absolutely. That's hypnosis, power of suggestion.
Marketing, too.
And, well, that is suggestion.
Part of marketing, yeah, that's true.
Suggestion.
Wow.
That's suggestion.
The mind is a fabulous thing.
And we go in and out of hypnosis many, many times a day, everyone. And me too. We just don't see it as that. And sometimes it's not as deep as it is in a therapeutic condition. But going back to your original question, We have to set the subconscious mind, make it comfortable. If it doesn't, it will either deflect it or worse, modify it. If it modifies it, now you don't know what you're working with.
Ugh.
So
yeah, that's where that
but
responsibility.
everyone is hypnotizable.
Wow. Okay.
Somebody's, and I love that when they say, "You can't hypnotize me." Okay, you know. And
That's a challenge for you because they don't think you can, and you know they can. You just got to get them there.
yeah, and I always put a little trick on them. They, count from, take them from 10 down to 1 and miss 6 or something, and see what they respond. And they come out, and I said, "Did you hear me count 10 to 1? Yeah, was it a good count? Oh, yeah."
Oh, they didn't catch it?
Didn't
So you
catch
knew.
it.
You knew.
Yeah. Another method we used to use years ago, we had a staircase we'd walk them down. And the analytical guy, he'd come out of hypnosis and he'd say, "You could do it intentionally. Say, miss one of the numbers. Just write it down what it was." He'd come out and he'd say, "Hey, you missed number 9.
Uh-huh.
And the direct guy will come out and say, "Wow, that was so wonderful." They feel it in their body. There's a classic example of those personality profiles. The direct suggestible, if they go through a breakup, they're literally ill. They feel it in their body because they're wearing their emotions outwardly. Now, their direct opposite, they internalize their emotions and they don't feel it. And so they say, if you ask them about the breakup, they'll say, "I'm glad that's over. I didn't feel nothing." Well, I'll be honest with you. I'd hate to think I was in a relationship for 20 years and not feel anything. It's a lie. They're denying it. But they believe that they don't.
And that's why they don't have all the emotional
They don't. They do not
behavior.
have sensitivity. When someone comes to me, that's another reason why I test them as deep as, I only do it on the first session, but because now you know what you're working with. And in that particular case, you know that they're not going to have any ego in sensations. These people, you don't do some of that stuff with them, like you don't do some of the stuff, like make your arm stiff or something. They'll say, "I ain't going to do that." But they're pretty deep in hypnosis. And a direct suggestible, that arm will get stiff as a steel bar.
That's so interesting. Well, we're going to take a break. We're going to be giving away a free book, so you want to stay with us because it is an awesome offer. Have a piece of paper and a pencil ready to write it down, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
Welcome back to the show. I am here to give you this awesome offer. Arden Courts Memory Care Community is our national sponsor, and Arden Courts is a leader in memory care. They have over 50 memory care assisted livings throughout the United States, and 10 of them are here in my state of Florida. This is called the 36-Hour Day Book. It's a wonderful resource for caregivers, and it's absolutely free just because you're tuning in or watching this program. This book can help you day by day. You can read it from front to back or pick and choose what topics that maybe you're going through at the time. And it's written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace. It's in its 5th edition, so it's constantly being updated. And so if you would like to have this book for yourself, all you have to do is send an email to delray@arden-courts.com. That's DELRAY at Arden, ARDEN -courts, COURTS.com. in your email, just give your name, address, telephone number, and say that you saw the offer for the free 36-hour day book on the program, and they'll be very glad to get a copy mailed right to you. So today I have a special guest. His name is Harvey Francis, and Harvey is a certified hypnotist, and we're talking today about what exactly that means, how people could benefit from hypnosis. Harvey's been in this expertise for over 50 years, and I am just amazed by everything that you're telling me, because it's just so wonderful that people have another alternative to help them with issues. And we're talking specifically right now with stress, caregiver stress, being overwhelmed. Caregivers sometimes can't sleep. Their mind is always going. They're always going to bed and maybe keeping one ear open, one eye open, because they're afraid that their loved one's going to get up in the middle of the night. They can't relax. So, Harvey, how can you help a caregiver relax? Because someone will say to a caregiver, well, you know, Susan, you just need to relax. Take care of yourself. Chill out. You know, have some wine. Just don't worry and relax. And they can't do that. I mean, maybe for a little while, right? But then they're really back into all the hyperness with the insomnia, the worry, everything's going on. How can you help someone like that? And what would be the outcome of someone that would come to you for those issues?
Well, it's a pretty elementary treatment. We learn through identification and association, and we cleave to that identification and association. And so if it can learn it, it can modify it. And so you just make them associate the stress with relaxation. And I do that in a chair, and I go through many, many times, and I go through a whole system of it. And I don't like my clients to speak. It tends to lighten the state. Some hypnotists go for that. I'm kind of eclectic. Through the years, I've adopted a lot of different philosophies and ideology. And I don't like my clients to speak, because I don't want to put them in control. I want to be in control. In the therapy part. So you get them to identify the stress factor, and you bring it back, and you bring them back to the comfortable, calm, and relaxed, just like you are right now. And then get them back up and raise it back up, and then let them get, once they recall it, you can't get too crazy. You can't make them get it really big, because if you do, you might make it worse. And so you have to just watch it. When they call it up, just tell them, just let it go, and give them a way to associate comfortable, calm, and relaxed. Because when you're in a chair, you're relaxed, deeply relaxed. I love to watch people come out of the chair. And if I did that right, why, even the ones that says they can't be hypnotized, they're always relaxed. It's just part of the state. And so that's basically pretty simple. And saying you do a lot of things with desensitization, and not just a technique that we use, just desensitization. Now, a lot of people says I'm an old-timey type hypnotist. Well, I might be, but it works. You know.
Hey, if it works.
And you know, I've through this business in the last 50 years, I've seen so many different fads. And every time there's a new fad comes out, I go get certified in it, and normally don't use it. So they're pretty hard to stray from the basics.
Okay, so again, great segue to my next question. You talked about getting certified in different modalities, right? Different ways. If someone thought that they might want to try visiting a hypnotist to help them with their problem, and you said there's a lot of fads out there, and sometimes maybe even quacks, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's the guy at the fair, I don't know. But they want to be legit, someone who can really help them, that's certified, how would they go about qualifying someone to help them as a hypnotist?
So first of all, you need to know the criteria, and most don't. So we are blessed these days with the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a double-edged sword, but it is a blessing because you can find out where they're certified through. I would recommend anyone to determine where these guys are certified. I'm certified through NGH, International Medical and Dental Hypnosis Association, International Association of Counselors and Therapists. I used to be a jillion of them. Now that's what I've boiled down to, because they're the essentials. And if you will call those organizations, whichever one, and I'm all the time looking these people up. But anyway, that's the way I'd start. I found a guy on the internet about 3 months ago, and I like to know who's who in my area. And I called this guy and I said, "Who are you certified through?" And he gave me some off-the-wall name, and I said, I'm not familiar with that. And there's not many I'm not familiar with. There's new ones coming and going. But so I said, "Really, would you spell that for me?" So I looked it up and I said, "Where's it based?" He said, it's English-based. First red flag. Why would you get certified someone out of our country? I didn't say it wasn't valid.
Was it an internet program too, like a home?
Yeah. Anyhow, so I found out who it was, and then I started looking him up, and there was 4 or 5 pages of calling him a fraud.
Ah.
Now, the sad part of that is there's a lot of people that wouldn't do their due diligence, and then these people might get either taken advantage of financially or might even get worse, or at best their problem wouldn't be remedied. And I'm a life coach also. And so life coaching is a whole different world.
Yes.
And so that's what I would do. I would research them, but I'd go the next step. I would find out who they are. And I know a lot of people in the United States. I used to mentor, but I know a lot of people. And the first thing I do if I find somebody, do you know this guy? Do you know this gal? Well, no, I think I saw her at one of those conventions. Well, what do you know about her? I don't know.
You got to check them out.
I would highly recommend it. And the reason why, I don't think you'll get particularly hurt, but you won't get your money's worth.
Okay. And speaking of money, I have to bring this up.
Ooh.
Does insurance ever cover this type of treatment?
The answer is I don't know of any insurance company that takes hypnosis.
So it's private pay out of pocket?
Absolutely. But you recall now, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, if you were a chiropractor, you was considered to be a quack, right?
Yep.
And insurance companies wouldn't touch them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hypnosis is about where chiropractors
I can understand that.
But now chiropractors has carved out a little place. It's not the whole none of these modalities are a panacea.
Right.
None.
Right.
Mine or any other. So the insurance companies now then do take money from chiropractors. In Europe, it's very holistic medicine is very well accepted, and it's getting more and more accepted here. And there's a lot of discontent with being drugged up for everything. And I don't know how many people I get said, I just don't want to take the medication. And I have them come to me saying it made me ill. In our current modalities, we say if you can't treat it with chemicals or cut it out, what are they going to do next?
Right.
So that's an unfair statement, by the way, because they're good at what they do. And I know they saved my life too. But the truth is, there's other modalities out there, like, you saw that I had pre and post surgery. Not that I do anything special. What I do is I prepare the body to heal better. And it is absolutely documented that if I've got 6 weeks to deal with someone prior to surgery, they will go through surgery with flying colors and heal 2 to 3 times
faster than somebody else who had the same exact
right.
surgery.
That's right. Now, I didn't say that it was a hypno-miracle. You're still going to have to heal. The body is such a wonderful, wonderful organism. So, case in point, I practice self-hypnosis, obviously. And
for yourself or teaching other people how
both,
to do it?
Both. I'm getting in age, and I was looking at a hip replacement. So I said to my girlfriend, I said, I'm going to start working on hypnosis. So I'd spend 15, 20 minutes a day. And I'm a dancer, and I was back to dancing. I wanted to go before a month, but my doctor didn't want me to. So I was dancing on the floor at 6 weeks. And
after the surgery?
Absolutely.
So when you're doing your self-hypnosis, is it similar to giving yourself affirmations and repeating mantras and things like that, or is it really totally different than that?
Well,
or you don't have to tell me your secret, but
no. It's argumentative that there's no such thing as self-hypnosis, and the reason why that is, if I teach you to do self-hypnosis, you're hearing my voice, so I am hypnotizing you. So that's argumentative. There's certain things you can do in hypnosis, like reinforcement. You can't be your own therapist because of that little filter I just spoke about, and it wants to protect that subconscious programming. I know a guy, a very well-renowned hypnotist, and I won't mention his name, but kind of a hero of mine. He's a pragmatist like I am. And he said trying to be your own counselor is kind of like one nut trying to counsel another one. And the reason why, because you're given that information through that prism, and it alters the information to fit the subconscious programming. And that's the danger with trying to do anything. Now, as far as affirmations, I teach people self-hypnosis for weight control. I teach people self-hypnosis for smoking. And this lady that came to me, I taught her self-hypnosis, and so she helped me help her. And I use that statement a lot. I give them all recordings to listen to, and I tell them, you've got to help me help you.
You've got a great voice for listening, the deep bass, the bass voice there.
Yeah, I love this
kind
stuff.
of very smooth, right?
This is very, very, this is my hot button, so to speak.
Yeah.
I love it. Nothing better than to watch somebody improve. But it's an awesome responsibility, as I said before. And sometimes when I'm talking to someone, I actually stop and pause and think how I'm going to say it for 2 reasons. First of all, you don't want to say the wrong thing, and even though you want to say it, you've got the upper hand because you know how they receive information, so you want to know how to rephrase that so you can get the most bang for your statement.
Right.
So there's a little more to this than what meets the eye.
Of course. I mean, this is just amazing information. And we're just touching the surface for people that might want to know a little bit more about it and, try to seek out help if they've tried everything else, that there is hope. And that's what we do. We give hope to people. You like to, help people heal, and we give hope and information so people can find wonderful people like you. And that being said, if someone's listening, watching the show today, and they'd like to contact you, can they do that? And
Absolutely.
How? Can you give us how?
Yeah. Well, my phone number is 561-405-1905, and I'm located at 1600 South Dixie Highway and in Suite 510.
In Boca.
And I also have a website, hypnosisboca.com. The name of my company is Hypnosis Center of Boca Raton. And you can Google that, and I have a nice website, and that is where I get a lot of it. I get it through Google and website.
Wonderful. Okay, 561-405-1905 if you'd like to talk to Harvey Francis, certified hypnotist, wonderful person, so interesting. I want to thank you for being with us today. I've learned so much. It's amazing. I may have to book a side, meeting with you to
like
learn
that.
more.
I'd like that.
There's a lot to talk about. I mean, I'm sure we could do this for hours. And if you all enjoyed and learned, tell your friends, tell your family about Caregiver Solutions Info Show. It's every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and every week it's a different topic, a different subject, a different guest, learning about caregiving, learning about dementia, and putting it all together. All kinds of subjects. I mean, from what you do to the financial piece to the social piece, we cover it all. And I want to thank you for being here again.
Thank you for having me.
You were fascinating, and I want to thank everyone at home who has watched us either on the iHeartRadio, listened to us there, watched us on the website. Let everybody know. Also, don't forget to get your free book, the 36-Hour Day book. It is free for you. And Delray at Arden-Courts is the email. So get that today. And stay with us for next week, and we'll have somebody else that will going to help you as a caregiver walk your path a little bit better. So take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.